In this brief demonstration, we're going to explore just a few different ways to resize table columns. When you resize a column in FrameMaker, you can select either the entire column or you can select just a portion of it, like one cell. The most common way that people resize columns is just to manually grab the little button and drag it over like this. And as you do this, it will resize that column. You aren't sure how wide it is, but you'll also notice that the entire table gets shorter. Let's do Control Z to undo it. Another way that most people know is that you can also place the cursor over the selection handle. And if you hold down the Shift key, as I'm doing here, notice that it does resize the column, but what you're really doing is moving the border between these two columns, and the table maintains its full width. So that also is useful as well. However, there are a number of useful ways that you can choose from the Resize Selected Cell column command, and we're going to try some of those. The first one is that you can actually resize a column based on the width of the contents in the cell. And you can pick either the entire column, or you could pick what you think is the longest cell, or you could go ahead and pick perhaps one cell that has contents that you think make a good width. So we're going to try this just for the heck of it. So we're going to go to Tables, Format, and we're going to go ahead and choose Resize Columns. Now you'll see here that looks like a long list of choices, but the one that we're going to use right now is to the width of selected cell's contents. And notice down here at the bottom that you can give it a maximum width. So if you had a long wrapping paragraph, you could decide that you don't want it to be any wider than 3 inches. I'm going to go ahead and resize that. And as you do that, notice that the entire column becomes the width of that cell that we had selected. However, we could go ahead and select the entire column, as I'm doing here, and then I could go ahead and say Table, Format, Resize Columns, and we'll use that exact same command. And notice now that everything exactly fits. And by the way, the reason that this area down here in the bottom, you'll see text appearing and disappearing, that's because it's got a variable in it that will automatically tell you how many pages or sheets the table is. Okay, so that's one way that works pretty well, and it can be useful. Another way that we can also do it is we can scale we can take a table, we can take a column, and we can scale it a certain percentage of what it is. So let's try that. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut of Alt-T, F for Format, and then E for Resize. It brings up that same command. So this time what I'd like to do is to scale it a certain percentage, and I'm going to make it about half of its width, 50%. And as you can see, it did just that. Another thing that you can do as well is you can decide that you want to, you could decide that you really like this, this table width. So I could go ahead and I could decide that I want column 3 to be the width I'm going to use for column 1. So this is like column 1, 2, 3. I like this one. So I'm going to go over here to column 1, and I'm going to use that same command, Alt-T, Format, Resize. And this time I'm going to say that I'd like to take the column I have selected, and I'd like to make it the same width as column 3. There you go. You can see that it's now the exact same one. Okay, and that works just fine. And that's a really useful command when you've got several columns that you want to be the same width. Another thing that we could also do too, let's say that we added three extra columns. Okay, so we're going to go up here to the table command, add rows and columns. I'm going to go ahead and add so many columns to the right of the selection. I'm going to go ahead and add 3. Now, whenever you do this, this will clone what you have selected. So it will go ahead and make them the same width as that. Okay, and perhaps, you know, I may have a situation where one of these is wider than the others. You know, this might come out a little bit bigger like that. So something that I could do is to actually select all 3 of these, and underneath my table format width, one of the things I could decide that I want to do is to scale these. I wanted to scale these, or I want to make them equal widths. And so this says go ahead and make them equal widths totaling 2.2 inches. That happens to be the width of whatever I have selected. So if I go ahead and resize that, you can see that that just automatically equalized my columns. It basically made them the same, you know, which is really, really nice. And finally, there's yet another way that you can do it. These aren't the only ones. I'm going to go to the end of my document where I happen to know I have another table. There's one right here. And here I've got some very narrow columns. You know, it's for something like yes, no, and maybe, that type of thing. You know, perhaps that's what I'm going to do. So I might decide that this maybe column is exactly the width I need. You can actually resize columns by copy and paste. And you simply go Edit. We simply go to Edit, and we want to copy special. And one of the things that you can copy is table column width. So I've just copied that width. I didn't have to go and look it up and write the numbers down. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the page that we were on up here and scroll down to the table. And I've decided that I'd like to take all three of these columns and I'd like to just make them exactly what the table width is that I just copied. So all I have to do is Control V for paste. And you can see that that went ahead and automatically copied that width. And now perhaps I want this to be yes, no, and maybe, which again works quite well. So as you can see, this is very, very versatile. And just as a reminder, maybe, A-Y-B-E, that doesn't fit anymore. Anytime that you have an individual column that you want it to automatically fit the width of your table contents, we know that there's a command to do that, Alt Table Format Resize, and we know that there's that one that says to width of selected cells contents. There is a keyboard shortcut. It's one key at a time, and they're all lowercase. You go Escape TW, and that basically says go ahead and table, make it fit the width. So that's yet one more way that you can do this. This is just a quick summary. There are many other ways to do it, but as you can see, it's quite versatile and easy. Thank you for enjoying our FrameMaker 11 demo.